First, if you're a regular NewsNation viewer, you know we don't just cover the UAP story. We've broken so much news on the topic, we kind of own it. And tonight there is plenty of news on unidentified aerial phenomena. Worry and frustration is growing over the lack of information about the mysterious sightings of what appears to be large drones that have been spotted in the night skies in the Northeast for weeks now. The objects, some of which are said to be as big as SUVs, have been increasing in numbers since they were first spotted hovering over New Jersey in mid-November. Similar sightings have recently been reported in Pennsylvania and parts of New York City. UAP incursions near sensitive security areas like the Picatinny Army Arsenal and President-elect Trump's Bedminster Golf Course are causing particular concern. The sightings themselves are one thing. A bigger concern is how long this is allowed to go on repeatedly in a high-populated area with nobody in authority able to tell the public what's happening. What are they? Are they drones from a rival military or spies operating within our borders? Do they pose a threat to the public? Well, today, police chiefs from across New Jersey got a Homeland Security briefing to try and answer their many concerns. Garden State mayors met with federal officials yesterday. That briefing, though, left many city leaders unsatisfied, saying they failed to learn much of anything. In Washington, meanwhile, today, White House National Security Communication Advisor John Kirby addressed the sightings and said that there is no evidence of a public safety threat.
We have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully.
That briefing did absolutely nothing to quell the questions and the frustrations of both lawmakers in Washington and in New Jersey. For more, let's go to NewsNation's correspondent Joe Khalil live in Washington. Joe, what are you hearing in reaction to Admiral Kirby's statements this afternoon?
Well, Admiral Kirby said a lot today. It was more than we'd heard from the White House, but he didn't really answer any of the key questions at all. We still don't know where these things are coming from, what they're doing, and he says there's no evidence that they're a public threat, but he was pressed on that because, again, short of knowing what they are, it's hard to conclude that. I know that certainly that's not welcome news for people living in that area, nor is it welcome news for lawmakers who still say they feel like they are being kept in the dark here. He also said in that briefing there was no evidence that this came from a foreign adversary, but didn't really explain how they got to that conclusion. I think it did rub some people the wrong way when he said that they couldn't corroborate any of the sightings because maybe to those who are not tuned in, that seemed to suggest they were kind of dismissing several of the reports that describe sort of what we're seeing in these images here. Take a listen to what some lawmakers said today, just echoing their questions that are outstanding and their frustrations.
Obviously, we see them. We don't know where they came from or who is controlling them. And there is a little bit, well, confusion might be the wrong word, but what are the rules of engagement? When are they perceived as a threat that can be engaged? And I am seeking clarity on that.
We're asleep at the switch. We're in between administrations. Nobody's watching it. Nobody cares. Everybody's just trying to cover their fannies right now. And I feel like we are not manning our stations.
So, Elizabeth, one thing that I keep hearing over and over from several lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, and by the way, who you just heard from, one Democrat, one Republican here, is they're wondering why we have not already brought one of these things or several of these things down out of the sky, either shot them out of the sky or in other ways where you don't have to shoot them down, but bring them down. Many think that would go a long way in answering some questions. Others have brought up the question of why don't we follow these things to wherever they're coming from to at least learn the source of them. If that's already happened, the DOD clearly has not conveyed that to lawmakers because they're still asking for it to be done. And it seems like an obvious question that we still don't have an answer to.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.